Arnav, live
Has
is
it been already
started.
started? Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
it is
Good.
started.
Yes. Can you hear me? And am I audible and visible?
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. So we should proceed now. Well, good evening, everybody present here. Welcome to the two-day international online workshop come webinar on engaging students in an online environment, global perspectives. And this webinar come workshop is organized by the Department of English, Sri Krishna College, Bogula, Nodia, West Bengal, India. And in our webinar here today, we are happy to announce and it's a great pleasure to announce that we have here today two great and eminent speakers, Professor Katie Sweeting and Professor Sophia Mitra. Professor Katie Sweeting is an associate professor from Hudson County Community College, New Jersey, USA, and she is also a Fulbright Scholar to India 2020-21. And Professor Sophia Mitra is an associate professor of Union County College, New Jersey, USA, and he's also a doctoral candidate, and he was a doctoral scholar and a professor of St. Paul College, Kolkata. Before and now, when he has moved to USA and he joined various institutions of reputation, and now she has been working in the Union County College, USA, which is located in New Jersey. And we are happy to announce that they have accepted our invitation and joined us today in this occasion. And I welcome everybody who are there in the YouTube, who have already taken part. And we have, and it is also a matter of pleasure that we have got immense and huge responses across the globe. And there are almost 1,500 registrations that have already been done with us for today's webinar. It's a huge response across the globe, and people have already joined today from across the globe. As I can mention their countries. We have the participants from Canada, we have the participants from Indonesia, we have participants from Australia as well, and also and also some people who have joined from Mauritius. So we have we are grateful to you and thankful to you that you have all joined today. And once again, I also I also feel and I also express my gratitude to the eminent speakers, Professor Katie Sweeting and Professor Sophia Mitro, that they have joined us today and they have accepted our invitation. So once again, I welcome everybody and also welcome Professor Anamika Chakraborty, who is the head of the Department of English, Sri Krishna College, Bogula, Nodia, and also, as I see here, another Professor Subroto Rai, who has also joined us today in this webinar, and Dr. Shajidul Islam, who is also an assistant professor, Department of Commerce, and without his help, we can't go further. He is behind all the technical team, and he is leading the technical team, and not only this webinar, but all the webinars that I think our college has already organized 20 to 25 webinars, and he has helped us a lot to organize this, and all the technical issues that and we have, all these are solved by Professor Dr. Shajidul Islam. So we are also very much grateful to Dr. Islam. So, and all the participants who have already joined, and our respected principal, sir, Dr. Shukdev Ghosh, will join us shortly in this program, and our president governing body, Mr. Anup Kumar Bhadro, we hope he will also join us shortly. So, without without much continuation, without wasting time, I must move forward to the occasion itself. And once again, I welcome everybody. So I think we should start now. And we're waiting for our principal sir, and he will join us shortly. So can we move forward, ma'am? Can we proceed or wait for sir? Okay, we are proceeding. Okay, so as I have said you earlier that we have two eminent speakers today, Professor Katie Sweeting and Professor Sophia Mitro, for our workshop and webinar on this online platform that and they will discuss and they will present and we will and I all the I request all the participants, please be with us till the end of our session, because at the end we have an interactive session, and if you have any queries, questions, you can ask at the end of their lecture, at the end of their presentation. And I now we should go forward, and we should proceed to the next part, that is the workshop. We should commence the workshop now, which is and we are waiting for that for that workshop. And so we should go forward, we should proceed to the workshop itself, the next session, and the most awaiting session of today's webinar. So I welcome once again Professor Katie Sweeting, ma'am, and who is from Hudson Union College, Hudson County Community College, I'm sorry, Hudson County Community College, New Jersey, USA. And ma'am, I welcome you to our webinar, to our occasion once again. And I request you to start your presentation and start your talk. And after Katie ma'am's talk, we will be moving forward to the talk that will be delivered, to the lecture that will be delivered by Professor Sophia Mitro. So please, all the participants, please be with us till the end of this session. And if you have any queries, please you can ask us. Okay. So let me have the pleasure to announce that, and we are very happy that our honorable principal sir, Dr. Shukdev Ghosh, has joined already. And before going to the workshop itself, before going to the next session, let me have the pleasure to request our respected principal sir to join us, and also to deliver the opening speech to deliver the opening speech and welcome our eminent professors and eminent speakers today. Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Hello. Or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Yes. I will start.
Yes, you are audible, sir. Yes, yes, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I sincerely hope you are all well
Hello.
in this pandemic situation. Hello. I am extremely honored to have chance to welcome all of you. Firstly, I heartily welcome to our eminent speakers, Professor Sophia Mitro, Associate Professor, Department of English, Union County College, New Jersey, USA, and Professor Katie Sweeting, Associate Professor, Department of English, Hudson County Community College, New Jersey, USA. Next, I would like proudly thanks my respected colleagues, dear students of our college, and teachers, research scholar, dear students from other colleges and universities across the world. Attending the 2 days international webinar, workshop come webinar. I specially thanks Professor Anamika Chakraborty and her team to organize these 2 days seminar, webinar. Due to COVID-19 pandemic today, we the educators along with other professionals are faced with a new reality. So strange, so challenging. But this grave situation in a meaningful and effective way. I do hope 2 days international online workshop come webinar is going to be productive response to this crisis. We hope and wish all the success to this prestigious
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your opening speech. And as our sir, the respected principal sir, has already told you that we have got huge responses across the globe from the professors, research scholars, and the teachers across the globe, and so and from eminent institutions. And already, so many people have joined YouTube, and we thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, we once again we thank all of you who have already joined, and now let us proceed to our workshop today. And the session will be starting, and the session will be commenced first by Professor Katie, and we will start our workshop today with Katie ma'am's speech and her lecture, and she will present a PPT also. So we request all of you to please be with us and let us enjoy her speech, and let us and I'm sure we'll be enriched by her lecture. So let us go and let us proceed to our workshop. So Katie ma'am, over to you. So
Okay, namaste from America. So nice to have everybody here. I wish I could see you when I teach online. I like to see my students, but that doesn't always happen. I am supposed to be in India right now on a Fulbright, teaching and leading workshops at Fergusson College in Pune. But for reasons we all know and understand, I am not there. But this is the next best thing. So if we can't be together in person, we can be together online. And my friend, Professor Mitra, and I have worked together on several conferences. And when she asked me to join her and present for this conference, I didn't hesitate at all. I said I would love to do that. So I'm very happy to be here. Professor Sophia Mitra and I have been teaching online for several years, and we started teaching remotely this spring. So first I want to just explain those two terms. Teaching remotely is when you meet with your students at a certain time, and usually you will meet on a video conference, and we'll talk about all the various video conferencing tools that you can use. We meet online, we have discussions, we do lectures, and that's remote teaching. It's synchronous. We're all together at the same time. Fully online teaching is asynchronous. So we don't see our students, they complete assignments, we have discussions with them that are due on a certain time, but it's asynchronous. So everything we'll be talking about today will relate to remote teaching. And as we all know, in the spring, we had to shift very rapidly from in-person classes to remote classes. And for most of us in the US this fall, we're continuing to teach remotely. So with that in mind, I'm going to cover two main topics this morning, and then my colleague will cover some other topics. I think whenever there is a crisis, there's also an opportunity. In fact, Albert Einstein said, with every crisis is an opportunity. So we have had a crisis worldwide. Here in New Jersey, the COVID epidemic hit early and hard. Just in this one state alone, we had over 10,000 deaths between March and May. And New York City was right close to us across the river, was also hit very hard. Since then, we're doing well, thank God. And so right now we're doing okay. We're praying for you all in India. I know it's a difficult time there now. So I'm going to go ahead and share my PowerPoint. And hopefully you can all see this. So we're talking today about engaging students in an online environment. And what I'm going to start with is thinking about why we teach the way we teach and how we help students achieve their student learning outcomes. So we're going to start with the end in mind. First off, I'm going to start with what I'm calling professor learning outcomes. So in a face-to-face class, we have student learning outcomes. Student learning outcomes are what we want students to be able to know, think, or do by the end of the class. So in our case, we have 15-week classes. And by the end of those 15 weeks, what should students be able to know, think, or do? I hope my PowerPoint is showing. So the professor learning outcomes for this 2-day workshop, this is what we hope by the end of this workshop you will be able to do. You'll be able to describe backward design. You'll be able to lecture in a variety of formats. You'll be able to choose from a variety of online platforms, create effective discussion boards, engage students using online tools, provide students with tools for 21st century learning, and utilize presentation apps like PowerPoint, Prezi, and Google Slides. Can you see my slides? Can you see my slides?
No, ma'am, it's not visible.
Okay.
Please share your screen.
I'm trying again.
Okay.
Okay, are we good now?
Yes, yes, yes. It is visible now.
All right.
Now it's visible.
So I'm just sharing with you these professor learning outcomes.
Yes, yes, yes. It is visible now.
All right. So I'm just sharing with you. And we will engage students using online tools. We will provide students with tools, excuse the typo, for 21st century learning. And we will utilize presentation apps like PowerPoint, Prezi, and Google Slides. But first, we're going to start with how we design our courses. And I'm going to have an activity for you to do. So I hope you have another computer that you can write something on, or a piece of paper. Get ready to do a little work as I present. So there's 3 main frameworks that we use to design courses. The first one is coverage-based design. The second is activity-based design. And the last one is Wiggins and McKay's backward design. So in coverage-based design, we start with the textbook or the topics that we want to cover. Our outcomes are based on the content. For example, students will be able to summarize the plot of the Odyssey. The teaching methods are based on covering the material, and the exams and assessments are based on covering the subject matter in class. So when I first started teaching, I was handed a syllabus and a textbook and given a class and said, go teach, with no training. I don't know how the Indian system is, but in the US, if you have a graduate degree, a master's, or a PhD, they assume that since you know the content, you know how to teach it. Not always true. So a lot of us have started with coverage-based design. What do I need to cover in the class? And my examples will be from English and literature because that's what I teach, but you can apply it to whatever subject you teach. Coverage-based design has a lot of lecturing. It's heavy in lecturing. And in the second part of my presentation, I'm going to talk about different ways to lecture. I am not a huge proponent of lecturing, but I have found that it is necessary and it is useful. And the research has shown that lecturing is especially useful for students who are early in their academic careers, freshmen and sophomores who need that base of information. As students get older, juniors, seniors, postgraduate, they will use less lecturing, more discussion and activity. So activity-based design, you start with, what am I going to do in the class? This is common for the younger grades. Am I going to speak to them, lecture? Is there going to be group work? So I'm starting with, what am I going to do? What methods am I going to use in the class? Then I decide on the content. And then I decide on the outcomes, which in this case are largely activity focused. So a student learning outcome in this model might be students will be able to complete a lab assignment on thermodynamics. Students will be able to compose an essay. The assessments then link back to the student learning outcomes. So activity-based design has a lot of small groups, other activities that students can engage in together. But what I'm recommending and what I now use, and when I learned about this model just a few years ago, it completely transformed the way I teach and the way I design classes. So backward design starts with the end in mind. It starts with the student learning outcomes. So what I want you to do throughout this presentation is think about one class that you're teaching now or you're getting ready to teach, and try and apply what we're going to cover to that one class. So what is one of the student learning outcomes for your class? What should students be able to know, think, or do after successfully completing your class? So if you can, right now, I want you to write down in the chat or on a piece of paper or in a Word document one student learning outcome for your class. I'll give you a minute to do that. So what should students be able to know, think, or do at the end of your class? Students will be able to compose an essay and cite sources. Students will be able to analyze a poem, right? So write down one of the student learning outcomes for the class that you're going to focus on during this presentation. Okay, so you're still working on that. So based on that student learning outcome, what evidence will show that the student has achieved it? For example, in my British literature class, one of the student learning outcomes is students will be able to compose analytical essays that develop and defend a critical judgment about literary works using research as appropriate. So how will I know if students have achieved that outcome? I'm going to assign them an essay requiring them to use research, create a thesis, and write coherently and persuasively about their stance. The rubric will be based on the student learning outcome. So I have the student learning outcome and I have the assessment. How can I make sure that my student is going to be successful? I need to teach the material in such a way so the student has the necessary knowledge and skills. In other words, what teaching strategies, that's this one, am I going to use? What texts will I choose to teach? What will be the content of the course? And how will I use formative assessments leading up to that essay, right? I wouldn't just say, hey, everybody, write me an essay in the second or third week of class. I'd have them practice writing thesis statements. I'd have them practice analyzing the literature. So you see how everything relates to everything else. Everything maps back to everything else. It's very interrelated. But if we start with the student learning outcomes, it will change what we choose to teach, how we choose to teach, and how we assess. And I have found it, and research has shown that it's a very effective way to design a class. So I hope all of you have written down your SLOs. I'm looking in the chat. I guess you're not doing it on the chat. That's fine. Hopefully you wrote it down on a piece of paper. What is one thing students will be able to know, think, or do by the end of your class? So backwards design is based on learning outcomes. Now, some of you may be familiar with Bloom's taxonomy. We use this at my college. And this is the level of the learning outcome. So is the learning outcome asking students to remember something? Is it asking them to understand? In the case of writing an essay and defending an argument, that's kind of all the way up at the top here. So you're going to have them do smaller assignments that ask them to understand and apply before you get up here, right? Another taxonomy for learning that I think is very useful, a little bit harder to measure, is Fink's taxonomy. So you still have understanding and remembering on the bottom here. You have the application, the managing, that's in here. But then you also have these dimensions, learning how to learn, reflecting on learning. And I have learned how important it is for students to reflect on their own learning and to have reflective activities throughout a class. Caring, how does what you're teaching and what they're learning relate to their lives in a way that makes them care for others, have values, and the human dimension. So this is another structure for developing student learning outcomes. Bloom's taxonomy can aid in course design because it helps us realize and remember the steps. So you can't create something if you can't even remember. So before you can understand, you have to be able to remember. Before you can apply, you have to understand it. In order to evaluate, you must have analyzed it. So this is a very useful tool to think about as we create student learning outcomes for our class. And in any list of student learning outcomes, there should be some lower level outcomes and some higher level outcomes. Okay, so I want you to look at the student learning outcome you wrote down. And, oh, good. Okay, we have students will be able to appreciate and interpret prose or poetry of their own. Very good. Okay, I'm seeing some others. Okay, go ahead and keep putting your student learning outcomes in the chat or write them down. So now what I want you to think about is to create what we call a learning objective for one class session. So I'm going to give you a sample. So in a class I teach called Religions of the West, the student learning outcome is recognize the significance of these religions for the individual as well as the social group. So why is this religion important individually and for the group that I'm in? So that's the student learning outcome for the whole class. A learning objective, which the way you can look at a learning objective is a smaller, bite-sized learning outcome for a specific class. In the whole course, you have student learning outcomes. In each class session, you have learning objectives. High school teachers in this country use SWBAT. They put it on the board and they put the goals for that class. Students will be able to. This is useful as we're designing classes. What will students be able to do at the end of this particular class? So the learning objective that maps back to that student learning outcome is evaluate the various ways one might identify as being Jewish. So in this class, we cover Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So when we talk for 4 weeks about being Jewish and what that means, and it means different things to different Jewish people, that relates to this student learning outcome. So what's the assignment that gets at this learning objective and this student learning outcome? It's a discussion question. This is something we'll be talking about today and tomorrow, how to make those discussions that we do in face-to-face classes and translate them to an online environment. So what are the different ways one might identify as being Jewish? And usually when I'm doing a discussion board, I ask them to write their answer and then respond to a few others. So that keeps the discussion going. So hopefully you have one student learning outcome and one learning objective that is a smaller goal for that student learning outcome. People are asking for the slides, the PowerPoint. This will live on the YouTube channel for Sri Krishna College. Excuse me if I'm not pronouncing that right. And so you can always go back and see all the presentations that we've done. Thank you very much for that. Also, at this point, I want to give recognition to Dr. Christine Harrington, who this is kind of a modified version of her presentation on backward design. Also, at the end of this PowerPoint, I have a list of resources that I think and I hope you will find very, very helpful. And I have research articles that I read in preparing for this. I have blogs and other websites, so you'll be able to see that also. Okay, so I hope you all have your student learning outcome and your learning objectives, so you're already improving and getting ready for teaching remotely. Because what I don't want all of us to do is just be so quick to say, well, how can I do this online? And what am I going to do here? We have to stop and think about it. Why do I do what I do in the classroom? And how can I do that effectively online? So not just what should I do or how should I do this, but why am I doing it? So that's why I wanted to cover backward design first, to think about why do we do what we do in the classroom and why would we take that teaching strategy online? Okay. Moving on to the second part, I'm going to talk about lecturing. So how many of you use lecturing in your classes? You can write in the chat, yes, I lecture. I love lecturing. I lecture all the time. I lecture a little. So go ahead and write in the chat if you use lecturing and how much you use it. There is a slight delay on the YouTube, so I know you'll still be writing as I'm talking. So I'm going to cover 4 choices for lecturing and give you some examples for each. Screencast-O-Matic. I don't know if any of you have used that. It's free web application, and it has a lot of features. It has a few limitations, but I have used it in both face-to-face, in all 3, face-to-face, online, and remote teaching. And it's something that we can use as professors. It's also something that students can use. You can use your phone, your tablet, your computer, your camcorder, and tape yourself lecturing and save it to YouTube. That's another choice. You can tape yourself, again, on your phone, camcorder, tablet, whatever device you have, and save it as a video and then send it to your class. Or you can lecture live on a lot of different applications. Okay. So before we get into these 4 ways, I found a research article, Bringing the Classroom to the Web by Eric Day, Helen Byrne, and David Gerdes, that had some very interesting results to me. Now, we might think, and I think you're having this problem in India, and we've also had this situation in the US, where parents and students are saying, why do I have to pay for remote teaching? I shouldn't have to pay as much because it's not as good. That's simply not true. And as somebody who has taught remotely and online and face-to-face, I hate to tell you this, but teaching online and remotely is a lot more work. So we are working hard and we are providing a quality education, and it is worth just as much as face-to-face classes. So this research was comparing lecturing online versus lecturing in purpose. And for multimedia presentations delivered online, what effect does the presence or absence of the video image of the lecture have on students' reaction to and perception of its quality? So using Screencast-O-Matic, you can tape just the slides and have your audio narration but no video, or you can have like what we have today on YouTube. You could see me a little bit and you could see the slides. Those are 2 different options. So they were looking at that. They found no difference in how the students learned or their perception of the quality when you were a little image in the corner or just narrating without an image. They found no difference there in their research. There was 278 students involved. But are there differences in performance on retention and a transfer question? So the information you're learning, can you transfer it to something else? Between students who viewed the presentation online and students who viewed the presentation live. So, and a member of the research team was there making sure that these lectures, both online and face-to-face, were basically exactly the same. Students in the live presentation thought that the instructor's explanations made more sense than those in either of the video groups. But there was no significant difference, as I said, regarding just the slides or the slide with the image. Students in both of those groups had the same results with transferring information and retaining information. What I found interesting was that in both of the video groups scored about the same as the face-to-face group on retention, but as far as really understanding and being able to transfer information, guess what? Students watching the recorded lectures did far better than students watching a lecture live in the classroom. I did not expect that result. So what does that mean? That means when you move to remote teaching, and if you want to record your lectures and put them up for students to learn, they will learn as well as, if not better than, they are in the classroom. Fascinating results. And I have that study in the resources if you want to look at it for yourself. So let's get into the Screencast-O-Matic. So in British Lit, I teach Everyman, and this screen is an example of using Screencast-O-Matic. That's what I did to create this. So you see the slide and you see me lecturing there in the corner. This is a screenshot of Screencast-O-Matic. It's free. You create an account, you log in, and then around your screen, you'll get this little box. Just go to whatever screen you want to record, whether it's a video, a PowerPoint, a document, whatever it is. Okay, and you have 3 choices in Screencast-O-Matic. You can record just the screen, so you're showing the screen and you're narrating and all they hear is your voice. You could record just yourself. So you could record lectures in this format, Screencast-O-Matic. You could turn it on. You are in the video and you could record your lecture. There's a 15-minute limit. So if your lecture is longer than 15 minutes, just create several. Actually, I think that's useful because after 15 minutes, it's good to check in with your students. Did they understand? See if they have any questions, give them a quiz. So you can record just the screen, just yourself, or both the screen and yourself. So this is an example of using screen with audio, no video. And hopefully this will work. So the next option is using your screen with audio and video. So teaching the Tempest, I have lecturing in the background and they're looking at the slides, and I want to go back. Okay, so you're lecturing in the corner there. This is another example from my Religions of the West class. Okay, so you have your PowerPoint, and when you turn on the Screencast-O-Matic, you put that little border around your screen and you lecture in the corner. This is a very effective way of lecturing. Or you can just record yourself. Okay, in this case, you notice that I'm wearing a sari today. Here I'm wearing an African outfit. I like to wear the clothes of the literature that I'm teaching of the country. So I'm lecturing here on Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart. I have a little African print. So this, I used a camcorder, but you can use whatever you want. So you could just record yourself lecturing and you can upload the video to YouTube. How many of you have a YouTube account? You could just put in the chat Yes, I have YouTube. No, I don't have YouTube. Again, it's free and your lectures can live on there. You see a couple of my other lectures. Okay, so if you want to just record yourself and upload it to YouTube, you create a channel if you don't have one, and then you just click this little video recorder right here and upload your video. It is that simple. Okay, so that's one choice. And then once you hit that, you get the screen, you either drag and drop your video or you select the file and upload it. And then once you've uploaded it, you can share the link with your class, or you can share the embed code. And if you share the embed code with your class, the video shows up automatically. Okay, so keep in mind, if you have questions, we're going to have a question and answer at the very end. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So a few years ago, I was teaching Rabindranath Tagore, and I am not an expert on Rabindranath Tagore. When you're teaching a survey class like world literature or British literature, I teach both of those. You are an expert on some texts, but if you're like me, you don't know all the texts really, really well. So I was introduced to Dr. Abra Bose at Vishva Bharati University in Kolkata, and I had him lecture my class in New Jersey over Skype. So I videotaped the session. So that's Dr. Bose lecturing on Rabindranath Tagore over Skype. And by the way, most of the YouTube videos on my channel have less than 100 views. This one has over 1,000 views. So it's a very popular video, and I hope it will work. Okay, not sure if you're hearing that, but the idea is that you can have a guest lecturer in your remote class. You can invite them on Zoom, you can have them on Skype, you could probably even have them on WhatsApp. So another thing that this remote teaching has opened up is it's easier to get guest lecturers. Okay, so and finally, you could save the video and share it with students. You could email them a link. You could share a link on Zoom, Google Meet. There's a new platform that has been developed in India this year, I believe, called Say Namaste.in. It's free and it has some pretty cool features. If anybody has used that, put something in the chat and let us know. Or you could save your recorded lecture on your college channel. So the last choice is lecturing live on your video conference. So this is the conference feature inside the learning management system that I use, which is Canvas Conferences. And here I am lecturing, and all my students are paying very close attention, right? I hope so. Okay, so various ways that you can lecture. You can use Screencast-O-Matic to lecture with the slides, or just audio narrate the slides, or just tape yourself. You could tape yourself lecturing and upload it. You can invite guest lecturers into your class. So these are a lot of options you have for lecturing in a remote environment. And these, as I mentioned, are my resources, and this will live on this YouTube channel, and we're happy to share it. The one I've highlighted is the study that I mentioned on teaching. This link is a very helpful presentation This is a little more advanced, so once you've been teaching online and remotely a while, you're going to want to check this out. This is my blog on teaching online, setting up breakout rooms, and using Zoom to teach online. So that concludes this part of the presentation. Again, I wish I could see you and talk to you, but we'll have to make do with the chat for now. And I will pass it on to my colleague, Professor Mitra.
Well, thank you, ma'am. It was really an informative and very insightful session, and we are really enriched from your presentation. And it was replete with new information about online teaching and learning, especially that will help us a lot during this pandemic situation. So thank you, ma'am. So those who are there in the YouTube, those participants. So I request all the participants, if you have any queries, if you have any questions, so you can just post it there in the chat box, and ma'am will try, and ma'am will definitely answer them. So please post your questions. Yes, we have a question, ma'am, from Dr. Yogita Sarwal. She wants to know, when we plan a lesson for online teaching, what assumptions do we keep in mind for the students? So this is a question from Dr. Yogita Sarwal. Thank you for your question. And after this, and one small announcement from the college, that after this interactive session, after this question answer, we will take a view. We will proceed to our second lecture today. That will be delivered by Professor Sophia Mitra. Thank you.
Would you like me to answer that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what I think we have to keep in mind, there is something called Zoom fatigue. So if we're online for too long, we're going to lose the students' interest. So we have to, I think, some things that are helpful that I learned with remote teaching is use small chunks of information and have activities and assessments in between. I really like to use small groups when I'm teaching online. You can do that in a lot of different platforms. So, and if you're not lecturing live, have them watch the lecture before you teach, and then have an assessment to make sure. I think the assumption is that we have to make is that we really have to keep their attention, even more so in an online or remote class than we do face-to-face. And I think it's helpful to be able to see them. If you're using a video chat and you can see them and make sure they're being engaged. And you will find, though, that some students don't want to use their video. Maybe they have a situation at home that's embarrassing. They don't have privacy. So there's some things that we have to be flexible about. But I think in terms of teaching online in general, it's keeping the lectures and the teaching in smaller chunks and then having assessments and activities in between to make sure the students are really learning.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. We have another question from Jayado Udgirkar, and he's asking that, is Bloom's taxonomy effective in online teaching? Is Bloom's taxonomy?
Absolutely. The same principles that apply to face-to-face apply to online. It's just a different modality, right? So we're going to use the same student learning outcomes, learning objectives, everything that we do face-to-face, we're going to transfer that to online. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. But I'd like to request you all to, if you, we have another interactive session tomorrow, after tomorrow's presentation, after tomorrow's workshop at the end of the session. So please be with us. So let us proceed to our next presentation, our next lecture that will be delivered by Professor Sophia Mitra. So I welcome ma'am to please deliver your lecture, and I would like to request all of you to please be with us, and if you have any queries, you can ask at the end of this session, at the end of ma'am's lecture. Then we will post these questions here, and ma'am will answer you. Thank you, ma'am. So over to you, ma'am. So
okay. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome. I welcome everyone who has joined globally. It's very exciting to be doing this, especially in this time of the pandemic. This is, as my fellow colleague, co-presenter, and colleague Katie Sweeney just said before me, that we have to look at the opportunities, the windows of opportunities that this crisis has opened before us, right? And this is one such where we are kind of within a box, but we're not. We're more open than before. If you think about it, the paradox of the situation. So I welcome you all globally, and especially for those in India. Namaskar, namaste, and I want to thank the Institute, Sri Krishna College, for giving us this wonderful, wonderful opportunity to present what we have been going through. Because right now we're in a position where we're all kind of faced with the same challenges. However, not in the same way, right? We're all in different playing fields. We're all at different points in the race. However, the goal, the ultimate goal, to educate our students, to make sure the process is as smooth for them and the educators all through, remains the same. So, and the medium that we are forced to take, except technology, is kind of the same for all of us. So why not, join in this global conversation and discuss like how we are all, facing these problems and different ways that we're all being challenged or being forced to kind of resolve them, to face them. Also, I would like very much to thank you, Professor Sweeting. That was an excellent, excellent introduction and presentation. I think it is definitely important, something that we often don't keep in mind. We are so stuck in the process, right? Right now, especially, we are so engrossed with how are we supposed to do this? The technology, the issues with the net connection, the issues with the devices. We often forget, what is the point? What about the content? Why are we doing this? Are we trying to teach our students a new skill, or we should be more concerned with what is the end effort of this? What should they gain out of the process, right? Are we preparing them for their classes and preparing them for the next level? So I think that's a very good introduction to make us think ahead in terms of what we want to do. Then definitely moving on to the most important topic that we're all kind of grappling with right now is how to use technology to kind of make us do what we want to do in the same way that we were doing before. I know for a lot of us it is different and it is going to be difficult. So first of all, I would like to just begin by saying that what me and Professor Sweeting have tried to come up with in a very short and condensed manner is just like a snapshot of the different things that we have been trying out. Now, these different strategies, these different platforms, they will not work for all of us in the same way, right? Because trust me, I have come from schools, I have taught in India, in villages. I have myself went to school in India, and then I moved here and I went to school in the US. And I have seen how much difference, this even back then, I have seen how much difference this medium of education and the entire process can be. And so, what can work for me, say here, teaching in a place where there's net connection 24 hours, schools are providing devices for their students. Even, my second grade daughter used to get an iPad, or right now they're getting MacBooks, is not going to be same, right? For somewhere remote in a village, in a country where the only connection that students will have is a phone, and not even that 24 hours. So what I'm trying to say is, please, I apologize if some of the things which we are trying to get across might seem a bit overwhelming. But the purpose for this is to make you think of, this is like a toolbox of ideas, right? And you have to figure out what you can use appropriately in the given time. Okay, so that's one thing. Second of all, what I always feel, I have been, when I have come to this country at a time when paper and pen, right? I was used to the traditional way of teaching, where I saw the teacher, the professor come to the front of the class, teach the class. We used to take notes, and that's it. And then we were expected to reproduce like pages and pages, of note taking, of summarizing. And so we were used to to the traditional paper and pen and the lecture style format. A lot of students still are. A lot of teachers, a lot of professors, especially in larger classes, that's the way that they have to get across, and it's all about like who can take what, right? Slowly, well, when I came here first, just sending an email, say my professors would say, write a response paper. What is a response paper? But that's a different topic itself. Okay, and then just typing in an email or typing up on a Word document what I wanted to say, like an essay, took ages, right? That itself was like a huge challenge for me. Like how, and so technology, like I resisted that. I felt that was coming in the way of what I was trying to get across, of what I was used to. I had to unlearn a process and learn something new. And did I really need it? I'm a student of literature. I'm an English professor. I'm in the humanities, right? Our topic is totally different. And there are so many different fields out there. And how many of them really need that much of technology to, unless, you're seeing yourself in a field where you're going to actually use it that much. So I really felt it bothersome at first. I felt it as a hindrance, and it was very difficult for me. Slowly with time, I realized that what we are trying to, that, we cannot fight it, because it is here, it is all around us, it is here to stay, and it is a different generation now that we are dealing with. We are dealing with the digital natives, as we all know, right? The younger generation who are born and raised in this world where technology is a big part. And a lot of what they're doing, their education, their communication, the skills that they are more used to involves this technology. We are the immigrants, the digital immigrants, who are trying to come into their world and trying to adapt and use and learn. And it's amazing how even, how much our generation and even the generation before us, our parents' generation, even they are slowly adapting and using. Why? Because, it is in a way making life simpler for them, making life more adventurous, opening up wider avenues. And so, when I got that idea of can we use this actually? Can I learn this? And can I use this so it doesn't take that much effort and it is actually helping me perform better? That's the kind of mantra that made me feel like, yes, if I can use this, so that if I can learn to use it in a way that serves my purpose for my classes, what I'm trying to teach, and if I can use it to help me, perform better, to enhance the quality of what I'm doing, adding to that. So not taking over, but trying to harness technology for my use. Is it being, more useful? And that's the result I got. And so slowly I began, I took a step into online teaching. I began with 1 or 2 courses. And then slowly I moved into hybrid. Where face-to-face I'm teaching, but at the same time, I'm giving a lot of the content online, because I feel, I was engaging students more. And that is actually the purpose, isn't it all? We have to engage our students. Yes, because, as a lot of you must have been dealing with, student engagement these days, keeping they're there physically, maybe in your class. They have to be there, right? For attendance, for policies, whatever. But how much are they mentally there? Isn't that the purpose of a good educator, to like open, ignite the curiosity and let them take over, let them want to like take that one step forward? So so to do that, in order to do that, we need to depend on these technological strategies and skills. And so little by little, if we train ourselves, right, not too much, because you don't want to overwhelm yourself and, get the process take over your content. But little by little, if you can start in simple steps, you will see slowly how you're actually blending it into what you already did. So you're not really changing what your content or your mastery of what you know, but you're only enhancing that with this platform of technology. Okay. I always begin with a very interesting story, because whenever I teach about technology, and I've become a big fan day by day. So I always begin by with this story. So I was teaching social media about, the use and abuse of social media in a classroom in the middle of the day in my college classroom at Union County. And then, why it's good, why it's a distraction, because to a lot of us, it is a distraction. Yes, because, we're always fighting with what to use for the purpose of learning and what you can use for social, media or your entertainment. In the middle of while I was teaching, my phone, usually it's the ringer is off, or unless it's an emergency from my children's school or something like that, I don't answer it. But the phone rings, and I see it's a Indian number, someone from India. So I get tensed a little bit. I'm distracted from my teaching. So I tell my students, give me a second. I just have to run out and get this call, because it seems from India, so something might have happened. Otherwise, who would have called me in the middle of the day? When I walk out into the hallway and answer the call, turns out it's a friend of mine who was on a business trip to India, and he was in a grocery store. And the reason for his calling was because I had asked him to bring me a particular brand of turmeric. I mean, this is just an aside, but I'm trying to make a point here. So I had told him to bring me a brand of turmeric from India. And he's like, I'm in the store, and quickly, can you tell me, is this what you want? And I'm telling him, can you ask me that later? Like, I'm in the middle of a lecture, like I'm talking in class. And he said, this is my only chance. I have a plane to catch after this. So what I can do is I'm just going to send you a picture. So immediately he takes a picture, sends it to my WhatsApp. I come back to class, I sit down, and it took me like 1 or 2 minutes in between, 5 minutes at the most. I look down at the picture and I see it's the brand of turmeric I want. So I just type in a yes, that's it. And, in a way, is that a distraction? Yes, it had nothing to do with my teaching. It's my friend buying something from me from India. But I use that as a teaching moment. So I tell my class, like, this is like the purpose of technology. Like, could you imagine a few years ago when, something like that could be possible, where you're communicating with someone from the other side of the globe, at the same time, and you are getting your purpose solved or your problem resolved. So, and Professor Sweeting was just showing before me, like, she was using Skype to use a guest lecturer from India to talk. Like, I'm thinking, how cool is that, right? And so these are the ways that we engage our students, right? So I kind of now, that's a segue. I know I love to talk too much. Always, I get so much into my topics. So I don't know if I'll be able to finish everything today. If not, definitely tomorrow. I have lots of more cool stuff to share. But I would like to start with my PowerPoints, and hopefully everyone will be able to hear me. And if not, I apologize, and I'll try my best. Okay, I know I have to share the screen. Okay. Okay, so that may take a moment. So just telling you that even now, after so many years, and I've been teaching online and hybrid, and I've used technology, and my dissertation is on learning management systems and their use. But this situation is totally unprecedented, right? So I'm still, like most of you, I'm still in a situation where I'm still learning every day, and I'm still being challenged. But I feel like, because I feel we're all in the same boat, I know we can get through this. And on the other side, when we come out, we will realize that we have just emerged stronger, because that's what human beings can do, right? We kind of adapt, we change, we adapt, and then we emerge stronger. So the beauty of this is these are the tools that our students, the students in your classes, they are more comfortable with these tools than what we traditionally use, right? Because these are their tools, they're the natives. So why don't we use their tools to kind of for their benefit? That's what I say. So it's not about just the pandemic and the pandemic ending and then we coming back to where we were before, but it's I think, with these ideas, with these tools, we need to think ahead as to how, learning and the educational landscape can be changed and shaped, right? And already it is in a large way. And why will we keep our students confined or limited when we can prepare them with the skills of the 21st century? Because basically that's what jobs will be looking for, and that's what their future is. Are they equipped for use of technology, use of critical thinking, use of collaboration? And as Professor Sweeting was talking about through her, I'm still trying to share. Okay, so as Professor Sweeting was talking about through her lecture before about Bloom's taxonomy, the use of technology absolutely targets those higher level skills for the students. So it's not a distraction, or it's not a temporary problem solution we're looking for, but something that could be permanent. Okay, so is my screen sharing? Let's see. Okay, share. Finally, I'm just making sure my screen is sharing. Can anyone let me know if my screen is sharing, if I'm being heard fine? Because I can't see YouTube right now, so I just wanted to make sure my screen is sharing. Go full screen. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go full screen here. Play. Okay, so hopefully everyone can still hear me. Okay, and if you have questions on the way, as I said, I will try to go slow, but again, this field is so vast, so wide, and it's something that we're still learning every step of the way, that there could be a lot of things that I don't have answers for right yet, but I'm definitely would like to hear, and I would definitely like to search up these answers and think about them, reflect on them. Okay, so my presentation based on, Dr. Sweeting, like, as I said, did a nice thing on outcomes, and so she gave the theoretical perspective. I would like to talk more about the practical perspective, like actually what we can do right now to engage our students online, right? And that's from schools to colleges, everywhere, everyone is going through that same situation. I don't know. Okay. I'm getting a noise here. Okay, so first of all, I would like to just mention these online conferencing platforms, right, that are taking the place of our real-time classes right now, right? So we have Zoom, which I feel is one of the most popular, right? I mean, think about it. Like before March, I did not have any idea of what is Zoom or, anything about these. Most of these videos, like I know something about Skype, and then we use some, something for our learning management systems for conferencing. But these like kind of change our lives from March onwards, right? And it has allowed us to stay connected and in a global way. So we are really, really indebted for the use of these platforms. So Zoom, I'm going to talk about a little in detail. I know, I've been hearing that there might be some problems with using Zoom, some, I don't know, security issues, political issues, whatever. But because of the practicality, and I always look at it from everything from that standpoint, like I will do what it takes to do to get my point across to my students. I still feel that Zoom is big, or will continue to be big, at least for the next couple of years. So I'm going to begin a little bit about Zoom and how actually I've used Zoom. I'm going to show an example of that. Cisco WebEx is another very common big video online conference platform that many colleges, many education sites are using. Now, Cisco WebEx, it's mainly offered through institutions. Even Zoom is offered through institutions. Like if, your principals are here, if your administrators are here, then definitely I think they should think about investing, at least for the near future, in such an institutional, account for using any one of these video platforms that they, works best for them, because it's much more practical. It gives them a sense of organizational control, right, over, the different aspects, over their classes, over their teachers and students, and a lot of administrative work. Secondly, I think it cost-wise also, it becomes much more manageable, if the organization owns it, because then they can, get one of those premium services where they really, you get additional features which, normally, for a regular video conference might not be useful, but for serious teaching, you might, it's a better choice always to get these premium paid packages. Okay, so if you're an administrator, if you're a principal, listening in, or even if you're an educator who you think can make, bring this up to your institution, if they don't have an online conference platform, to look into getting one, as soon as possible, because who knows how long this will continue. And the way things are going, or the way teachers are getting benefits from these platforms, sometimes they might just stay even after, say things go back to the normal or like the past. Like we might have more remote learning offered because after this, okay? So Cisco WebEx is also, and most of the features are very similar. So if I go over, say Zoom, say Google, it's a little bit might be here or there, the interface, the look might appear different, but most of it, the features are similar, right? You'll get the discussion boxes, the videos, the slide sharing. So the basic features are the same. Google, I know, is very big. It's very big. I think in India, when I talk to my educator friends, I know, they mention Google a lot. So, they've done a tremendous job, and they still are. They're jumping in on the pandemic bandwagon, as I say, just like Zoom and Cisco, and they're offering lots of additional features. So that's something you might want to look into, because I was researching and I saw even like this year, like after the pandemic, they've been adding, stuff for educators to help them. And they have it, I think, broken down according to country. So depending on your country, they might be offering something, particular or local that you can avail or use. So always go to those Google education, websites and just see what's being offered. Nothing can beat that. In this country, at least, especially when I look at my kids, like in the school systems, they use a lot of these Google platforms, right? So like, even though I personally have not used it, that much for teaching, I use it sometimes for other stuff. But I felt like my kids taught me through, and I felt they were so user friendly that definitely, I would like to go over a little bit about Google today. So in Google platforms, you have the Google Classroom, and that's the major, what do you call that, platform that I want to go over, because it kind of covers everything, right? The Google Classroom. And from what I was hearing, like back, a lot of you are more comfortable with Google Meet right now, right, as a conference tool. But that's mainly for the video conference and the chatting, right, than anything else. And but Google Meet is a part of Google Classroom. That's why I'm going to talk about the broader platform here. And then there were Google Hangouts, which was more informal, right? So it's kind of like, I'm not even sure how many people can join, but if you have these small groups of students who want to, or educators who want to conference or group together, then I think Google Hangouts would be the platform. Even though I'm not sure it has video. As I said, I'm not that familiar with everything in Google, but I'm not sure Google Hangouts has video conferencing. I know it has conferencing and chatting abilities. Microsoft Teams. So I've heard a lot of places, a lot of colleges, and, my colleague, Professor Sweeting, actually, she was the one who mentioned this. Like, are you using Microsoft Teams? Are you, familiar? I was not familiar at all. But then I went into this, the Microsoft Teams website to see what it was. And I'm seeing that a lot of colleges are totally using that. And so what I saw the difference between Google and Microsoft Teams is that, like, the Google platforms are more adaptable with Google Documents. So if you're used to using Google Docs, Google Drive, Google Slides, then the Google platform, the Google Classroom is more like they use those kind of documents, right? So if you're a Google user, basically. Microsoft, say you're used to Words, and everything that's offered through Microsoft Office, then Microsoft Teams would be your better bet. Now, again, I'm not that familiar. I just took like a bird's eye view, and it seems like the features are similar to, like, say, Zoom or what WebEx or Google would offer. What you need to consider, though, I'm not sure. I saw that you could open a personal account through Microsoft, like Google, Zoom, whatever. Your institution could have an account that would be the best, and they give you, a key or a code, and you use it for your class. However, if that's not the case with your institution, you can open your own account. We know, right? Like basic Zoom, basic Google are free. You have a Gmail, you can open a Google account, a Google Classroom. Okay, that's the steps I'm going to walk you through today. Microsoft Teams, I'm not 100% sure. I know, like, if your institution invests in that or opens that, you can access it and use it for your classes in the same way. And they have like a free version of how many, up to how many 300 participants can participate in a conference. I'm not sure if a person can personally open an account with a class. However, you can definitely go to Microsoft Teams and check it out, because what I'm seeing is that these companies are competing, right? And so if someone is offering something for free, a package, another company like a Google Microsoft competition, or a Zoom Microsoft, they would immediately jump in and offer something similar. So my guess is they might be having such packages right at this time that you might find useful, especially, again, if you're a Microsoft user. Learning management systems like Blackboard and Canvas, these are like what we use here, right? For our colleges, we use learning management systems. Can you type in, like you were doing for Professor Sweeting in your the YouTube chat, if you use a learning management system, what it is? And if not, this is something that the institution invests in, okay? So I'm not going to lie. I know there's an expense involved, but again, because I'm not, an administrator, I haven't had to do that. And I don't know in different countries how that package would look like. I do know that they are becoming more and more popular because, as I said, all institutions are trying to have this online learning platform built in where they can house all their courses or their syllabi, all the classes. And so they can use it for face-to-face classes, right? The work in there with attendance and grading all in one place. They use it for their online classes and remote blended classes a lot. And they are, once you have a learning management system and you're used to that, they are so useful. You cannot even think of, just teaching without them. Okay, so they kind of house everything that you do for every course. And what you do is next year, if you're teaching something similar or some years down the line, you can just copy and paste from what you had before. It's all stored there in one place. And the whole colleges, so you can collaborate with other colleagues, you can see other people. So it's very, very cool, very, very useful. This much I can say. Like, we use Canvas. My doctoral dissertation was on Canvas, and assessment tools on Canvas, and I can go on and on about these learning management systems. But I will keep that because, as I said, the point here is not to overwhelm or to make you think about, okay, this is something we totally don't do, or there's not time to even think about that. But I just wanted to mention it because, as I said, if we're thinking about the future, and I know many administrators are here, think about, would it be practical to have a learning management system, at your work? See other institutions around you. Do other institutions have a learning management system? How does that look like? How practical is it? Like, talk to people. How are these educators using it? And see if you can make a difference. See if your institution can try something new. So that's the only purpose of doing that. WhatsApp, I mentioned that because I was speaking with a few educator friends in different countries, and they're saying the most we're using is a WhatsApp, right? We're calling someone, and they're kind of I think a group of students, and we're kind of messaging. So I say, hey, that's great as long as they feel there's a physical presence. That is so needed when we don't have that face-to-face. And I think that's why the attraction or the need of a face-to-face will always be there. Because as human beings, we need that physical contact, right? And online classes, the main challenge is that lack of that. And I also faced that in the beginning. When I was teaching online, I'm like, how am I going to do this? Am I putting all my material there and they're just doing it? And, that's going to be easier for me. I have more time to do other stuff because I'm not in class doing the teaching. But then I realized that was not the right way. I was overwhelming them with work, with my pre-lecture recorded lectures, with lots of writing to make sure that they put in the hours, but not much interaction was going on, or they were missing that presence. So I felt like even if this is an online, they need to see and hear me sometimes. We need to have our conferences. They need to feel I'm there for them. Even though we don't have like a scheduled class time where I have to really sit through the entire lecture, but, through more emails, through more messages, through more WhatsApp, whatever we use. I know that's why I'm saying a lot of educators are using WhatsApp. Excellent. As whatever it takes to let those students know to hear your voice, and that they can share their problems, and that you can give them feedback, and that you care for them. That's what's going to make the difference and help them through, this transition or this huge change, whatever is hitting them. Okay, so that's something I had to mention. Okay, a little bit about Zoom. Again, a lot of you I know are already working with Zoom. You're using it for conferences, for your classes, for your job, we use it even for cultural programs. Sure, a lot of you are using it for other uses. But then again, I don't know, like a lot of you are not that comfortable or not that familiar with Zoom. So I still felt, we needed to know if this is the most common platform, Zoom.com, then try it out and see, at least 1 or 2 sessions, try to practice with it and see if it's helping you in a similar way like you would do. And a lot of this It just depends on practice. Trust me, right? It's like riding a bike or swimming for the first time. Just practice. Once you get the hang, it's not intimidating at all. So video conferencing is the main attraction of why we're doing Zoom, because you're seeing that video, that face-to-face, right? Like right now, kind of what you're getting through YouTube Live. Chat boxes for live discussion, both public and private. I like this. So say, you know, there's a class going on and it's just like an in-person class, right? You're saying something and then there are students who want to say something, but it becomes distracting if the voices are going on at the same time, right? I think it would be the same in the classroom, like you would raise your hand. So in this case, the Zoom is offering this discussion board where they can just, as you're talking, and I make my students do that because guess what? Not only about their questions, but it forces them to listen, right? This is about student engagement. So if you're saying like, make sure I want to see those questions, I want you to, I even do that when a student reads something online, and I have them do that because in an online class, lecture has to be less. That's what I've learned the hard way. You have to have more interaction. Otherwise, you will lose them. They will think this is an opportunity for them to just kind of log in and then, you know, not have to do much. Don't let them feel that. Feel that, you know, it's an actual classroom. Make them, when one student reads, I say, you know, the rest of you have to write some comments in that discussion box. So that's my way of checking are they listening or not, what they're listening to, and it makes the student who's presenting get feedback off of each other. So I felt that was an excellent way, you know, of having an in-class conversation, even though it's offline. Private, that's very useful too, because sometimes some students might have questions that are just for you, right? That they don't want to share with the class. Now, if it's a face-to-face, they talk to you after class, beginning of class, or somewhere outside in the hallway. How would they do it online? Well, how would you address the need of that student who has something to say? Sir, I don't have my book. Ma'am, I couldn't do my homework today because of so-and-so. I'm not feeling well. I'm not feeling comfortable. Can I share another day? You want to address the needs of those students. So you can do that through private messaging, and it's in the same chat box. You will just see it's not to everyone, it's just to you. So you have that feature there. They can use it. You have to lead them to these features right at the beginning and make them want to use it. These are their tools. They are there for them. But this is the way they can apply it. All right? Raising hand and other emojis. So raising hand is a feature. Again, you know, it's a great way of interaction, having students raise their hands. Who likes this? Show a hand. Any questions, raise your hand, and then you can call on whoever, you know, raise their hands. There's the use of emojis. What do emojis do? Mainly, again, you know, you're using their tools, a happy face, sad face, a heart, whatever. You're using their tools to make that collaboration. Right? As I said, use their tools, but teach your content. So come halfway. You know, it's about what you know, and it's about also what they know and they're used to. So you're increasing the engagement, but you're using it for a serious purpose. Okay, so make it interesting at times. Okay, post an emoji to what, you know, they just read out, to what this person has to say. What kind of emoji would you use? Make it fun. And I'm not saying you have to use the same thing every day. Vary that, but make it fun and interesting. Breakout room sessions, I feel, is like one of the greatest things that Zoom has. So they have the ability where you can distribute the students into groups. Like, I have this great picture here of, you know, where I got from somewhere. You can divide them into groups, and it's very simple. And I'm not sure if I'll be able to go through it today. If not, definitely by the next day, where you're taking them to these breakout rooms and you're giving them different topics. So just like an in-class, you would have these group conversations. And so in breakout rooms, you're doing just that. So it's giving the students becoming more comfortable with each other. And sometimes some students are more comfortable in small groups than in a large setting. As I said, even if you are a traditional, lecturer, professor that's used to being in front of the class and lecturing, and your students, receiving that lecture and not interacting much in the classroom. Believe me, I was a lecturer like that. I was a student like that. But then I changed. I learned what is the better way of having them process, especially these days. And in online or remote learning, you have to cut your own part short. You have to be a facilitator, a guide. You have to let them take over. And these are some of the ways. Break them up. Let them do the work. Give them these short questions on the text you just explained, or that you had them read. How would you understand that they read? You don't have time to ask everyone individually what you know. Break them up and have them do the work. Okay, you answered this, 4 or 5 groups, and then you come back and then share the class in the whole class again. Someone from the group present what you found in your group discussions. And you, the instructor, can enter into each of these rooms as they're discussing to see if they're discussing what they're discussing. In that way, they can't just think, oh, that means a breakout room, it's our party time, we can just do anything. No, because you're letting them know at the beginning that I'm going to enter these rooms then and there, and make sure that you're discussing. So you have to set these expectations right at the beginning, and they will, slowly pick it up. Trust me, like we have gone through this, right? I have gone through this. Screen sharing by multiple participants, right? Through Zoom, and this is marvelous because this is exactly how you're sharing your content, whatever slides, whatever videos, and I'm going to show you right now how I did it in one of my classes. Whatever you want to do, the resource-wise, and resources are so much now, right? With the internet, you're not just bind to one paper copy book, but so much more that you can use. And why not use that? Use the screen sharing. Have the students share their screens too. What someone wrote, what someone wants to present, bring it up. Have them, give them time to co-present. Recording both audio and video sessions, very, very useful. So someone misses a class, even when in a class, you're busy listening, not note-taking, or there's something you said, or like I was a student who I would daydream a lot in class when it's not like I always wanted to, but I was one of those learners who would be in class physically, but then my mind would not be there. And then half an hour later or somewhere, I would wake up and I missed what my professor or teacher was saying right in front of me, going back and forth. And I was so ashamed. I would never be able to even say, like, what happened? What did I miss, right? We have those students in our classrooms. I'm not saying like, that's an exception or that we have those students. We have to make sure that those students are also, listened to or given a voice. So how? We can record our video sessions, our audio sessions, video and audio. I think audio takes much less space than the video, but you can do either, or you can do both. And then download, and immediately, you have a file or folder where all these documents are saved. And then you just, send them to the class through the link. It is, again, that simple. They can listen to it whenever they need to, and go back and revise, what we had gone over. Digital whiteboarding. How you have the chalkboard right at the back, and you stand there and you're writing sentences and correcting, or you're writing examples, or you're writing definitions, whatever you do, and you're thinking, how I'm going to do that online. So you have a digital whiteboard there where you can actually type in, right? And you can circle and you can annotate. So I'm just saying, just play around with these tools on Zoom or any of the platforms that you use, because all of them or most of them have these similar features. I'm just saying of one. And use as much as you think would be useful for you, what you do in the classroom. Okay, it's not like this is new, so automatically am I expected to use all these 10 things? No. Stick to what you feel useful for yourself. Co-annotation of text, as I said, like that's I think one of the coolest things on Zoom. So you have like a text where what I often do when I teach writing is that I bring up a student paper and I said like find 5 or 10 mistakes, surface errors, comma splice, run-ons, where's the one sentence going into the other, sentence fragments, topic sentence missing, paragraph not unified. So when I have that screen in front of me and everyone is seeing it now, what I can do through my annotation feature, I can like underline, see, this is an example of what I meant, of a strong topic. This is an example of a good thesis. This is where the period, they needed a period. And I can give that work to the students too. With giving them that annotation ability, they can go in and they're doing the corrections, and even in live, in class. So the whole thing, it doesn't have to be about me doing, me talking, me, showing. I'm giving them the work to do. Okay, these are what's going to target your Bloom's taxonomy online. These are what's going to keep your students engaged. These are what skills that are going to be helpful for them, because they know that they cannot really, because it's online or remote, that they cannot really escape, their responsibilities of the part of the deal. Okay. I'm going to, so Zoom, I'm not going to show you this right now. We don't have that much time, but all this is live, as Professor Sweeting was saying. So you'll get all my, because I have tons of resources that I think could be useful. So we kept this toolkit for you, but this is about, if you go to the Zoom video tutorials, they have these wonderful, very short videos about how to use a slide, how to do annotation, how to break out rooms, how to, mute myself, or whatever features you want. They have these small video tutorials. So rather than me explaining, go to these at your free time, spend some time, have like me, like a paper or pen, like whatever you use, and then take notes or see. And as I said, start small, do one skill at a time. Oh, I can do this feature. Then let me, after 2-3 more practices, let me see if I can use another similar feature. Okay, that's what I would be doing. Okay, I want to, and I think we have time for this, just so I want to go over an actual, so this summer, I think I was teaching middle high schoolers writing workshop. Okay, I did this for fun over the summer, and so I'm going to use that as an example of an actual class session in Zoom and how that looks like. So if bears, have some patience and bear with me. Okay, in case. So the recordings are all there in case, you have time. Always go back and refresh. Can you hear? Writing, you will be writing no matter which field you decide you're going to go into later on in your life. You'll see how you'll be writing in some form, right? So I felt like, this is important for you to do, to think about writing in the 21st century, because that defines you. And what I mean is, even though our alphabets are the same, that's been there down the centuries, most of the words people are trying to enter. Why? Admit. Okay, most of the words we use are still same. However, if you read, literature where you're comparing the different generations, like what we read, like like 10, 15 years ago to what you're reading now, you will see that even new words are being coined, new usages, right? Colloquial words. So what I'm saying is, language itself is evolving, it changes, right? And that is defined in your writing. It characterizes the generation you're from. So I have this short clip, and I plan to show it if I can, about, what is writing in the 21st century, because you guys are going to be always, defined in literature or history as the digital natives, right? So what defines writing to the digital natives? Well, it involves any new modality. Oops. Okay, in case. So the recordings are all there, tablet you made, where you're not only writing for yourself, but for a broader audience, and you're writing with each other, and you should be.
Excuse me, ma'am.
So
screen is not shared.
Read. My screen is not shared?
Yes.
Okay, maybe.
You
Right now.
share.
Share screen. Maybe I got lost. It's gonna take 1 minute to share. But was it going okay so far?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am,
Please
it's
share
not
your screen.
visible.
I'm
Yes.
not visible on my screen.
Your screen, ma'am. Please
Yeah.
share the screen.
But your screen is not visible.
It's taking a minute to share.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
I don't know why it went blank all of a sudden, but I'm almost at the end, so I think I should be able to. The share button is at the beginning. Were you able to see that?
Yes.
Yes, says it's up to 1 minute sharing time before I can share. So I don't know what happened.
Ma'am, you click on the share screen option.
Yeah, I did. It keeps saying it will take up, even last time it was saying it will take up to 2 minutes. Katie, does it do that for you? Like, does it say it will take up to 2 minutes? No, it's coming, I think. So can the audience hear me? No. Do you think the audience can hear me in the meantime?
Yes, ma'am. You are audible, but actually the screen is not shared. It has not been shared yet.
Yeah, I don't know why it's.
Yes.
Your entire screen. Okay, now I'm getting it.
Okay, ma'am.
Right? So I'm so
Yes,
sorry
yes.
for the interruption. See, this is the downside of technology again. So bear with me.
Yes. It is visible now. Yes, yes, ma'am. Now it's fine.
Okay, thank you.
You're writing always like
So I want to go here to show how I use images in the classroom to teach. So I'm going to go.
Animal welfare, like treating animals the correct way, because like in this picture, if you're trying to do the video, then never mind.
yeah,
This
I'll
is
come
me
to that
actually
right
trying
after
to
this
use
because I have
a
this open in front of
textbook
me.
that I shared on the
Yeah, I
screen
just had a way that
for the
like,
students.
the video doesn't
So I
work
can
from
see
the
my
link, you
students
might be
and I
able
can
to
see the
do the
textbook
video.
at the same time. And you can actually do that through,
Okay,
Zoom
so
or through
come
your
to that as now. Tell me you're seeing my page, right?
Yeah.
My image. So these are all. This is the kind of when I say talk about use image whenever to support your writing. What do you see?
People being hanging an elephant upside down, and I think trying to take its tusks out because you can like see the tusks that look like they're kind of coming out.
So what do you think that this image, you just saw the image, right? You don't see an essay accompany it. So what do you think the image is about, or what is the comment that the author is trying to make here? Like, what's the main topic?
I think it's about like I feel like it's about like animal welfare, like treating animals the correct way, because like in this picture it shows them like mistreating an elephant. They just tied it up upside down. It's still hanging. If it's still alive, if they like kept it alive, it's probably in pain. And like,
so does it make you feel like it's about animal cruelty?
yeah.
It's about, if you know, in many third world countries, they have this huge racket, like business where they kill the elephants for their tusks, right? The ivory tusks.
Ivory tusks.
They sell for a lot. So that's like illegal. But this picture is showing the inhumanity of it, right? The people standing there doing it. Okay.
And they don't even care that like that animal might be in so much pain.
Yeah.
They probably don't even like treat it with like any like like things to like relieve it from the pain. Like,
let's see. How about this one? Interesting. Let's see who can, reflect on this.
can I say something about it?
Snigdha? Who was it?
No, Aishani again.
No one else wants to try? Ashani's stealing it today. I'm teasing. But I'm just seeing if anyone else wants to try.
Anisha does.
Who else?
Anisha.
So Shani, and then it has to be... Okay, Anisha, you take a try.
She wants to do it in the chat, though.
Okay, who wants to do it without the chat? Like, to verbally say something.
Me.
Go ahead.
So I think that this is in the text. I read the text and I looked at the image. It says one of the favorite programs of the kids in more than 90% of households is Sesame Street. So I think they're using like characters from TV shows that kids like to help like the kids learn better, to get them more engaged in their learning. Because you can see like the character Big Bird is like there with the students, and like I feel like the students are learning better. It just looks like they're happy there. They're like enjoying it more because there's something that like they consider interesting there with them.
That's a good
like
guess.
having more fun.
So I just wanted to, I hope, you enjoyed that session with the Zoom, but this is a very, very short, this was in the summer. I was teaching middle high school kids, but I use it with my college students in the same way. And for online remote teaching too, a point I want to make, and that's why I brought up this assignment, visuals, use visuals. For whatever you're teaching, have visuals, because, they are very, very engaging and they make your students think, and, they can actually help you explain your point in a much better way. Like even if I'm, teaching a play, if I'm teaching them a play, I try to go into the history of the time period, and I try to bring in visuals of, what that time would look like, or some of the issues that the play is dealing with, and I try to, so whatever topic, because I know this is cross-disciplinary, like I might be from the English field, some of you are, but some of you are from so many different fields who are having to face the same issue of teaching the students online and remotely. So try to engage them in these different tactics or ways. Okay, but get at the same endpoint, at the same outcomes. So quickly, I have a little bit more time and then I'm gonna end up, and please bear with me and stay with me for tomorrow. I'll open tomorrow and I have a lot of cool, presentations or, ideas to share. But Google services, as I said, the two platforms I wanted to talk about was Zoom, which we use here, and Google services, I know that is very popular. Google services, the Google Drive, right? A cloud storage service to store documents, photos, music. It is so useful because you can upload whatever document you have, whatever documents your students are creating, they all share on the drive. Everything is in that shared space, right? So if they're sharing, you can share among each other to discuss. It's very, very useful. Also big files that normally you can't send through email or stuff, you can share on your drive and you can get it. Like there's so much more easier, faster to save through Google Drive than regular email, right? So that's one thing. Google Docs. I'm a fan of Google Docs because I always grew up using Microsoft was my first thing. So I grew up, I still type using Microsoft Docs because I'm more used to, whatever tools they have. But once I started Google Docs, I found it really, really useful because people can share and write on the same document. So for example, me and Professor Sweeting, we use the same Google Docs to share an outline, share PowerPoints, share ideas. You could do it like between students, between you and a student when you're trying to, revise their paper. So using these tools can be very, very useful. Google Slides is just like the PowerPoint I'm showing. So Google has its own Google Slides in Google, services under Google Classroom. Again, it would be similar, right? Or it may have some features here and there, but I feel like PowerPoints and presentations, and I'm going to show you some next tomorrow morning, are one of the most useful ways of engaging students and having them do their assignments, right, online. Google Sheets, signing up for conferences, say you want to do individual conference that day or small groups or meetings, or you want them to sign up for presentations. This is so organized. You're having them all in one space, right? So use the Google Sheets in the classroom. Google Forms is an online assessment tool, right? Very, very big on assessment. I could, go on, but I'm not gonna, save that for a later time. But what I mean is you don't want to just, use that one standardized test at the end, whatever major exam your college or your, whatever your system there is using. But you want to make sure what you taught in that unit, in that class, in that lesson, your students understood. Small things, because that's important to see what they're retaining and how much, they understood. So give them these small assessments inbuilt, quiz them, give small answer, multiple choice, short answer questions. That keeps them engaged and makes you also follow, okay, they know this material, now I can move on to something else. So these are all the inbuilt, tools that Google and all these platforms have that you can easily avail. And probably Google for Education, a lot of the educational material that Google came up with, sending messages through Google, study material through Google, right, through your Gmail. It's the easiest thing to send them, these short lectures you record, these short files that you want them to read, video lectures, right? You can send them everything through Gmail. Search for topics through Boolean search, right? I say, what we had to do in the library, walk and go find the books, sit for the books hours and hours. Now you have everything, online. You just have to know what to look for, because not everything online, is going to be scholarly. So you have to teach them what to look for. So Google, I know they have this like amazing Google Scholar, right? If you type in Google Scholar, in that bar, if you type in your search words, you will get a lot of peer-reviewed scholarly articles and not just opinion articles from anywhere. So everything is provided there. You have to first, experiment a little and then tell your students what to look for and where. It's 12 o'clock. Can I do just one more? I'm just going to show you, again, this is a site that shows you lots of free tutorials that Google offers to its students and instructors, just like Zoom. And I'm just going to show you how to create a Google Classroom quickly. Do I have time for that?
Yeah, sure, Sophia.
Okay, so let me see. I think it was already here, so I'll go to Google Slides first. I had my daughter actually made this for me, a Google Classroom and a Google. Next. And I embedded this, I don't know, but hopefully you can see it. So I made this PowerPoint. It's gonna, be in this PowerPoint. So if you want to actually use it to create a classroom, and it's free, guys. It's free. So do try to go through and try to see if you can use this for your classrooms. So it's showing you exactly, so how you can create a classroom. So you can use, I did this, like my daughter did it for me, but you can also go to the Google tutorials that I showed you where someone is again talking about the process. Pretty simple, create a test classroom and see it's already created. And then you can invite students. Either you will get a code here or there's going to be a link. So you can post as announcements. So it just takes looks like an actual, as I was saying, we have the LMS, right? So if you think your college or your school is not ready to invest in an LMS, just use the Google Classroom, create an account. As long as you have a Gmail and your students have Gmails. Institutions through the Google Education, what is called Google Administrator Suite or Education Suite can have an institution account. They can all, if your institution, your principal, faculty feels like it's really useful, they can invest in it. And as I said, it's not about the pandemic. You can just have this, forever and just enhance your teachings, whatever you're doing. Or you could do it personally through your Gmail. Assign work, use topics to organize class, order work the way you want, so you can stream it, assignment, quiz, question, material, add topic, whatever topic you want to. Say you want to post a lecture, post a video, post a YouTube link for them to see. You can all have it in one space, and then you could give them a quiz on it. So create a test class and try to see one quiz. Well, she did everything, but I'm sure your students will like it after a while, So here you can do an opinion, a polling of the students, turned in, assigned. Okay, that might be it. So hope that was useful. I also had the slides. Can I show this, Anamika, or do you think I should post it for the next day? It's 3 minutes or something. What do you think? Keep it for day 2?
Whatever you think fit.
Okay, let me just finish this up.
Sure.
Then we can keep the questions for the next day, maybe. So this is how to use the Google Slides. So you type in your, see, it's just like the PowerPoint slides I'm using. So you can type, as you're watching this, you can post in the chat box if you use Google Slides or if there's any other form of presentations you use. If you use Google Classroom or if there's any other source of platforms you use, I would like to know that. Me and my colleague would like to know that. So, we have a better sense of what might help next time. See, insert images. So just giving these kind of options to students, I think, it challenges them more and it just adds. So it's showing how you can copy and post pictures from anywhere on your file. Make headings, use cool fonts. changing the font size, colors. Using shapes. So I think especially if you're trying to teach them something through flow charts, cycles, through processes, using slides to do that would be great. And, if you can think about it later on in the workforce also, because that's our ultimate goal, right? Preparing our students for the workforce in the 21st century, then these are the skills that they will definitely need. How to do a presentation, how to collaborate, how to use their critical thinking, how to use these skills to make it attractive, catch the audience attention. So it's not going to waste, like no matter whatever you're teaching them. Yeah, I think we're almost done. So this is just on the slides and on the classroom. And, as you delve deeper, you can go to the docs, and that was pretty much as simple. So I will talk a little bit more of the Google, and then I have a lot of online tools that I would like to share tomorrow. But I think with the time and everything, I'll end today stop sharing. Yeah, I'll end my presentation today. I hope that was useful. And any questions, or should
Arnav?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for such an insightful and informative session. Really, we are deeply enriched
Yes.
and by this session, and whatever you have presented through your PPT was very much helpful. As I have seen in the chat box, it is flooded with the comments that these are very much insightful and informative. So thank you once again, ma'am. And now we are moving towards the interactive session. We have few questions that we have collected from the YouTube chat box, and I am now I'm posting these questions here, or should I? Okay, so we have a few questions. One is asked by Shovik S. His question is, ma'am, how to explore the match between the language and thinking of students' goals to the design of an online course?
Katie, you want to answer that?
Sure. I think when we're designing an online course, we have to remember that students are visual learners. That's the primary way that we learn. So we have to ensure that we're getting all the learning styles of our students. Everything shouldn't be in writing. So we're going to use video, we're going to use images, we're going to use text, and we're going to try and engage all the senses of the students that we can engage online.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. We have another question from Lopamudra Ghosh. She is asking, how can exams be conducted in online platforms? How will these exam copies be corrected by the teachers in order to prepare the transcripts?
You want to take that, Sophia, or you want me to do it?
Well, so there are different ways of doing that, I would say, right? It really, if this is something that your institution, right, should have a policy on, right, like what kind of expectations they have. If it's more on a personal level, like you, as I was showing, like formative assessments, how the students are doing throughout the class, you could do it through, there are so many of those quiz making tools that I showed. So you can have them do it through those tools where you create a quiz and you also give like the correct answer in one of the choices, and they are auto graded. So they will show you at the end when they hit submit, like how much correct to how much wrong. So that's one easy way of seeing how they're doing. And that could be just for the students themselves or for you, the teacher. At the same time, if you're talking more about like essay type of writing, there are also like assignment makers where you submit the essays. We do that mostly on our LMS. So I'm sure like Google might have, some of these assessment toolboxes where you can like read, you submit something and then you can read directly on that and annotate, make the corrections, right? And you submit them. I'll show you next day. I think Google has a grade book tool where you can post the grades. You can give the assignment grades like essays count for 50%, quizzes count for 20%, presentations count for 10%. And then whatever grade you're giving, you post that into the student's grade book and it will show automatically how they're performing. So you have to, use these different tools. And I said a lot of it will depend on what your institution is thinking of using. So you definitely, if you're serious as your institution wants you to move into remote, you need to have this conversation there. Like, what are we all going to use? How are we planning to do our assessments and grading? And, so that there should be something common that you're all following and using.
Okay, ma'am. Yes. Okay, we have another question. Ma'am, what is your experience using synchronous versus asynchronous modes of communication in online courses? Is one more effective than the other?
Okay, I'll take that one. That's a great question. And so what you're talking about is a fully online class versus a remote class, right? And I think the key to both of these is the presence of the instructor. Are you present in the class? So when I teach a fully online class, and this fall I'm teaching 3 fully online classes, I log in every day. I post announcements, I respond to students' posts on the discussion boards, I'm grading, and also what I've started to do more in the asynchronous classes where we don't see each other is have video in the discussion board. And you can do that in using a lot of different platforms, but instead of writing out their answers, they can tape themselves and upload it. The idea is you want to build a sense of community in your asynchronous online class, and you can do that, but you have to be present. You have to let them get to know you. You have to be in there every day communicating with them, and you can build a community even if you never see them. It's possible.
I also, agree with that, and I have to add because I've been, teaching both forms, especially in the beginning. I was more online before, I've done this asynchronous online, where I saw like at the beginning, you think like asynchronous where you don't have to log in at the same time means that you're just giving them the work. That doesn't, really affect. They need to believe that it's like a classroom. The synchronous effect has, so you have, the more you log on, the more you communicate, like even emailing the students, something very simple like, hey, I didn't get to hear from you last week. Are you fine? Are you okay? You will get much more results than just not, responding at all personally. So that personal touch really makes a difference.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. We have another question from Profullo Kumar Panda, and he is asking that, what do you mean by geographical barrier of a learner? How does it affect his second language learning in the classroom? So he's talking about the geographical barrier of a learner.
So we have, we're in a very diverse area here in Jersey City. This county, Hudson County, is one of the most diverse counties in the whole nation. So I have students from all over the world. I have students from Africa, India, a lot from Latin and South America. And once they've gotten into my class, they have to speak English well enough to be in composition or a literature class. But what I do try to do is flexible, be aware of the different perspectives, cultures, languages. And what I also try and do, especially in a literature class, is include some of the literature from the countries my students are from. And I think that really gives them a sense of belonging and a sense of, you know, a shared community, that we're all from different places, we're all from different backgrounds, but we can try and understand each other and learn from one another. So I see that as a benefit. I love a classroom with students who are from all different areas of the world in different languages. I think it adds a lot of richness to a classroom. I don't see it as a negative. I see it as a positive.
And we have to keep in mind, like a lot of our students that, you know, you will see in your classes, what I meant also by that is a lot of them don't have access to the same kind of, you know, technological advantages that is some, you know, like people, say in an urban area or in a developed place. As I said, you know, my kids, for example, where they're going to school, they might have iPads and laptops given to them from the school system. But again, everything you have to see in a positive and negative. Like I'm going crazy thinking, when are they going to use a paper and pencil? They can't write, but they can type, right? So that is that disadvantage, but that is an advantage. So we have to see that. In some other places, I know where the students, you know, suddenly they have to use these remote classes and the only access is through a phone, right? So we have to keep that in mind when we're designing our classes, like respecting who our students are, the environment, the challenges they face. That's why I introduced by saying, yes, we will talk about these different groups. There's so much out there, right? Learning management systems and, you know, slides and all. But what about those students who might be able to do only the basic? So for them, we have to think about what are the minimum we need. If we need the WhatsApp, if that's all they're using, look at WhatsApp and see how we can use it and make them say, okay, can you at least have a Gmail? Can you have an account where I can send some slides? Can you use this at least for one day in a week? Can you join this class? So these are the different things we have to keep in mind as educators, right? And as Sweeting was saying, just like I too, like I teach in a very diverse environment here where we have students from all over the world, and not everyone comes with the same, you know, experience or background. And you have to understand that and use that to shape the, you know, the classroom experience.
Okay, ma'am. We have one question more, and that is going to be the last for today. Dr. Yogita Sarwal is asking, Madam, when we plan lesson for online teaching, what assumptions do we keep in mind for the students?
I think what I just said, and Professor Sweeting can, you know, add to that right after me. But just knowing that just like us, they are also humans coming from diverse backgrounds, and they have just like we are experiencing something new, something different. They are also experiencing that, and we just have to make them feel that we are there for them all through. Like, you know, the patients right now, people who are, you know, the doctors and the nurses, they're seeing them as their gods, right? They are a form of divinity, giving them hope. So we have to take that role. We have to give them hope that we are holding their hands, that nothing, even though things have changed, but we are there. And, you know, the end goal is still to see them reach however it takes to be successful. And the difficulties, we have to, you know, be more compassionate towards that, listen to them, and try to work out. And we have to be open to multiple ways of engaging them, of reaching them.
Yeah, I agree. And I would also say that we have to give really clear instructions about how to do things online, how to post assignments, how to take the quiz. And also, I call my students, the old-fashioned way, and take a phone and call them and talk them through things that they need extra help with. But I agree with Professor Mitra that we need to be flexible. We need to give really clear instructions, and we need to help them be successful.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I have seen some participants are commenting. Some participants are asking for the feedback link. Actually, you will be given the feedback link in the chat box during the session that will be held tomorrow. So today we will not be giving any feedback link in the chat box. It will be given during the session tomorrow. So please be with us tomorrow. That and as you were as you are there like today, and please be with us, and we will be giving that tomorrow. And the certificates of this webinar come workshop will be distributed after the submission of the feedback. So we will not be giving any feedback today. And tomorrow we have our session that will start at 7:30 IST. And so stay tuned. And now we are proceeding towards the valedictory session of today's lecture, today's webinar. So I would like to request our respected HOD, Professor Anamika Chakraborty ma'am, to conclude today's session. Thank you.
I hope I'm audible. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, you are audible.
What a wonderful session, both the sessions, and we are truly speechless. And what I see from the we are overwhelmed. Thank you so much, Katie, and thank you so. This was wonderful, and without anything, all of us are going to be present tomorrow in their own interest. They know what they are going to get after today. So for today, we conclude, and tomorrow at 7:30 sharp, we'll join again to have another two sessions more from, I think, first Sophia is going to speak, and after that Katie, and after that we are going to have the interactive session again with the feedback certificate. So as of today, we call it a day, and waiting to meet you all tomorrow again.
Thank
7:30.
you. Goodbye. Good night.
Good night.
See
Good
everyone
night,
tomorrow.
everyone. Shadijul, we can leave now, Shadijul.
Is the YouTube over?
Shadijul, is the YouTube over?
I'm just closing the YouTube.